Welcome to the Pick Six podcast. Katie Mox and Will Brinson here, joined by our Pick Show squad, Alex Selelnick, aka Propstarz, and Emory Hunt of Sportsline, also known as the Czar of the Playbook. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The last episode, the Super Friends dug into Week 8 of the NFL season, where Breach, Wilson, and Brinson hashed out what's next for the Vikings after losing Kirk Cousins, and should the 49ers and Chiefs panic? Maybe. You can catch that episode on our YouTube channel or the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. It's now time, fellas, to look at early lines and leans for Week 9 of the NFL. And we can talk about some macro trends. Obviously, underdogs 6-6-2 against the spread. Home teams 7-5-2 against the spread. Home dogs still barking 4-3-2 against the spread. And the overs went 8-6. Have the totals got so low now that the overs are back?
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, you mentioned sponsored by FanDuel. Our FanDuel podcast parlay that we put together somehow missed. It hit 3 or 4 freaking Chiefs. The Chiefs are how we lost that podcast parlay. Unbelievable. Had the Panthers an underdog, the Ravens and the Eagles, and then and the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are the ones that cost it for us. So that's something interesting there. But yeah, I mean, I think that like what you see is a little bit of an overreaction where the totals get so low that it ends up being a thing where, you know, we're gonna get more scoring. You know, it's gonna be weather dependent, it's gonna be matchup dependent. But you know, you might have a matchup with like RJ had the in the best bets, he had the Rams team total under 19.5, and basically lost it because the Cowboys scored so many points. You know, like, and that game went way over. And I think if you look at the week in general, you know, Saints and Colts low total, you get 60 plus points in Rams and Cowboys. The Dolphins dropped 31 of the Pats, and so you see that number certainly, you know, like. You just see like you could just see like a bunch of games where, depending on what the weather was, Eagles Commanders, you know, 69 points in that game. Ravens Cardinals 55 points, and a bunch of those weren't even necessary. Like the Ravens were up 10 plus points, the Cardinals score, so then the Ravens go down and score, and then the Cardinals answer, and there was a 2-point conversion in there. So it's like I think a lot of it is sort of game environment, and a lot of it is unders at such a high rate that it pulls the numbers down, and then you don't need as many points to go over.
What did y'all just for research purposes? What happened in that Chiefs Broncos game that caused y'all to lose it?
The Chiefs lost.
The Chiefs lost. Yeah, it's a money line parlay.
So Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens money line parlay, and the Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens, and Panthers money line parlay. We have to have one underdog, and so we had like 3 huge favorites, and the Chiefs. Which I feel like the Chiefs were a pretty good bet, having not lost to Denver in like, you know, a long time. Was the loser.
But that's before you knew that Patrick Mahomes was sick and had the flu. I'm sure I wasn't here on Thursday, but
you were here on Tuesday or Monday last week. All 3 of you guys said Alex he was dealing with
yeah.
Under the weather. It's very under the weather. So you guys were here,
for what?
For me saying that game was going to be close, take the under, and I was going to sprinkle some on the money line.
You did say that.
For the Broncos?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God, I blacked out on that one. Wow.
Oh wow.
What I've been going through a lot, Emory. Okay. I don't remember Monday, I barely remember yesterday. But
do you think I remember what happened last Monday?
I remember when I'm right though.
Well,
I bet you do.
Well, when you're right on a long shot that nobody believes in, yeah, I get it. All right. I will give you your flowers, Emory. What a good. Tell me.
I mean, the Broncos hadn't beaten the Chiefs in 8 years.
Yeah,
it was 2015 when Peyton Manning won. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's a great poll. It's a great poll by you.
Yeah, I already tweeted it out, so we can move on.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, well, you've had a lot of those. Any takeaways from you, Propstarz, in the prop market this weekend? Were people performing to expectation? Obviously, a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty of spots and values to be found, particularly like as you mentioned, Katie, in props. There's just a lot of emerging players whose role and production still are growing, as we've seen. 2 guys in particular that I highlighted on our Sunday kickoff show on the early edge were Trey McBride and Demario Douglas. Trey McBride being the new tight end one on the Arizona Cardinals. Zach Ertz on injured reserve ended up with 14 targets, 10 receptions, 95 yards, a touchdown. If you're playing in a tight end premium fantasy league, that's a 30 bomb right there. So I think his role, no matter who's under center, whether it's Josh Dobbs or Kyler Murray, he's going to continue producing as a tight end one there. Demario Douglas, Patriots wide receiver, played 41 of the 53 snaps exclusively from the slot, which is very valuable in that Bill Belichick offense. Ended up with 4 receptions, not a lot of yards, but with Kendrick Bourne on the shelf. Patriots obviously trailing in a lot of negative game scripts as well. Demario Douglas is a guy I feel like whose role could continue to emerge as the season progresses.
All right, good insight there. Let's get this rolling and talk about week 9. People, Titans at Steelers. Steelers laying 3, which is interesting to me. This total 36.5. Will Levis and D-Hop connected for what? 3 touchdowns yesterday?
4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns yesterday. Very exciting in the old Oilers uniforms there too. This game is interesting to me just because there's been a lot of talk about the Titans making a lot of moves for the trade. You've heard Derrick Henry kind of trade rumors potentially.
Well, the report now is that Henry won't be traded.
Okay. Well, what about D-Hop? I feel like his name, I mean, after this weekend, I would think.
Yeah, he's probably off the market now.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that takes that out of it. So when you look at this, Emory, you look at Will Levis. Were you impressed by him? Do you think this is the truth, or do you think you got lucky?
I think I was impressed because here's the thing. You got to go out there and perform. You only can do what you are asked to do. And the fact that he went out there and wasn't afraid of the moment, he wasn't trying to just hit check downs and, don't make the mistake. He was working touchdown to check down, which is what you want to see. So that was a positive sign for him. Some people say he just kept throwing it to DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I
mean, who else would you throw to if you had him?
Why not? Right. Yeah. And so I'm more impressed that the league allows DeAndre Hopkins to, headlock somebody, and then get away with it. Like, there's never an offensive pass interference on DeAndre Hopkins with what he does to these defensive backs when he's in a route. Like, he's doing all kind of crazy stuff. But you have to like Will Levis and what he did, especially against a team in Atlanta that does a fantastic job applying pressure, which brings us to what he's going to see this week from the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
He's going to have to do it again. The good part is for him is that even if he has a rookie type game on the other side of the field, you have Mitch Trubisky. So it may not look as bad in terms of the Titans. Oh man, they got blown out because the Steelers defense just overwhelmed with Will Levis. He could perform at an average rate and still be in this ball game. So I think this is a good one for them to go on the road and steal because you won't have Kenny Pickett and you have Trubisky, who's very much prone to turnover.
Turnover machine. Yeah.
And so now you have a Titans defense that can apply pressure. I like the Titans plus the points here.
I lean that way with you as well. Props, what do you think?
Yeah, I was impressed by Will Levis as well. He matched Ryan Tannehill's touchdown passes in the first half. Tannehill had on the season. So, it just goes to show you there just wasn't a lot of passing production from this Tennessee offense. But, I think he suddenly makes, guys like DeAndre Hopkins,
alive again.
Yeah, alive, potentially viable options. I do think there's a solid chance that this ends up being the best, at least from a statistical standpoint, the best performance of Will Levis's season this past game. But certainly impressed. I think the guys on the team are live, and I think it's going to kind of put some energy back into this somewhat lifeless Tennessee offense. So good things ahead.
Definitely more of a vertical, opens up like things vertically for the Tennessee offense more than Tannehill, more than Malik Willis do. We didn't see him run. He hung in there under pressure. Really, really impressive. The first touchdown was probably like offensive pass interference, but whatever. I think Levis makes the offense a little bit better. I still take the under here. I don't think we're going to see a ton of scoring. Next game, which I'm supposed to bring up. Dolphins at the Chiefs. That's in Germany. I was going to say some German phrase, but I'm afraid of bratwurst. How about that? Chiefs minus 2.5, total of 50.5. This one's a tough one because we don't know exactly what we're going to get in terms of travel for either team. I know Miami's leaving today, and Patrick Mahomes is dealing with the flu. The Chiefs are getting a little juiced up there to 115, and we also don't know what the surface is like. So I think it's the first Germany game in a long time. Or did they play Tom Brady playing Germany?
No, last year I think they were.
Yeah, Tom Brady playing Germany last year. I need to look at that and see what the scoring was. But I mean, like I think it's also just like it's a tough game to handicap because you have two really good teams with lots of offense in theory, but the Chiefs defense has been very good. Dolphins defense has not been great. Dolphins offense has been fantastic, but it's overseas, and you're going to have to deal with the travel, and you have to deal with the Patrick Mahomes, of MVP candidate who's been sick. So it's a difficult game to handicap.
I would agree. I will say Patrick Mahomes 14-3 straight up after a loss, and international favorites in games not featuring the Jags are 22-9 against the spread, so hitting at 71%.
Listen, I've watched over the last 3 seasons because they're in their 3rd year, European League of American Football. There's about maybe 8 teams in Germany, and the fields over. I don't know which stadium they're going to exactly use, but with 8 different franchises, I've seen a lot of the German games, and they've done a fantastic job with the field. It may be more grass fields than turf fields, which is always a plus. But the matchup here to me is big because I feel like the Chiefs defense matches up well with Miami's offense. The defensive line in particular, they do a fantastic job of collapsing the pocket around quarterbacks so they can crowd you and make it tough for you to get rid of those quick throws. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Tua and that offense supersedes that. So I see the under being more in play here than anything because I feel like the Chiefs defense has been the story all season long, and this is a good test for them and a good matchup, in my opinion. Despite the speed and explosiveness, the way they collapse the pocket could make things a little bit tight for Miami.
And I would be remiss if I did not mention Rashee Rice. I try to mention him every single stream appearance we have, guys, but I can't help it. He continues to impress me. He leads all wide receivers in the NFL in yards per route run. That is super impressive for a rookie, for anyone, obviously. Still a ton of upside here. He had a career high 61%, played a career high 61% of the snaps yesterday. So that's obviously encouraging. That was more than any other Chiefs wide receiver. So his role in the offense continues to grow. Still, he should be running routes at least, or playing 80 to 90% of the snaps, in my opinion. So still a ton of untapped upside here. But I think he's going to settle in, or he has already settled in as far as I'm concerned, as the number 2 option in that passing attack. You see his relationship with Mahomes and Mahomes' confidence in him growing on a week-by-week basis. I think Rashee Rice is going to have a monster second half of the season.
What's the latest on Achane?
He'll be back week 11.
Week 11. Okay, so we got a couple more weeks.
So they expect him to be full systems go immediately once he gets taken off IR.
So the game is played at Frankfurt Stadium. I don't know if that's the same stadium the Frankfurt Galaxy plays in, but when you watch the Frankfurt Galaxy, the Munich Ravens, the Rhein Fire, they do a good job in Germany. Germany's been playing U.S. American football for a minute, so they do a fantastic job over there with the field. So I don't think traction and it's not like London. So I think we're in for a good game down there, over there in Germany.
Okay, good scouting report on the Germany stadiums there. Right, moving on. Rams at Packers. Packers laying a field goal. This total 39.5. Rams just got kicked in the face by the Dallas Cowboys. However, Matt Stafford injured. I believe it's to his throwing hand, right? His thumb?
Yeah, right hand, thumb on his right hand.
Thumb on his right hand. So I don't want to touch this game. I don't like betting on the Packers, and I don't want to bet on the Rams without Matthew Stafford. But what does this do for the prop market with no Stafford? Are you still looking at Puka? Are you still looking at Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, not sure really what we're going to get out of a Brett Ripien offense here. This is kind of a byproduct of how this Rams roster is constructed, extremely top heavy. They had been pretty fortunate early in the season, having Aaron Donald play. Stafford obviously not having sustained an injury, and then obviously Puka emerging, Cooper Kupp back healthy. But yeah, this is just a very top-heavy roster with a lot of talent, and then it's just a lot of young, emerging, unproven players. But when you see, the core guys get hurt, kind of things just kind of crater as a result of that. So yeah, I'm personally staying away from the Rams side of things until we have a little bit better idea of how this offense functions sans Matt Stafford. But we'll kind of really put into perspective, that he is a viable MVP candidate most likely when we see what this offense looks like without him.
Yeah.
Hey,
Now we're talking.
That.
No, I mean, look, I don't think you take anything on this game right now. I mean, especially knowing that, Jordan Love has been wildly inconsistent, and just you don't know what you're going to get for the Packers offense. Rams defense, I know that they got stomped by the Cowboys on Sunday, but I think the Cowboys had a defensive score. They also had a punt blocked for a safety, and I want to say that they had they had like two one. Well, they had a pick six. And then they also got the ball in LA's 13 to begin a drive. And so it's like, and then they had one that they had LA down early. You don't know if Stafford's going to play. I don't think this Green Bay offense will do a ton against the Rams defense. See the total 36.5. It's just not a game. I think you stay away from it right now until whether, because Stafford at 39.5, Stafford might end up actually playing, but I mean, certainly, because he caught a touch. He caught a 2-point conversion.
I think that's when he hurt his hand. That's when he hurt his hand. Because he already his hand was taped up, and he hurt his hand. He was on the follow through on a pass attempt. It went into DeMarcus Lawrence's helmet, into the face mask, and you could and basically like Lawrence is like his head's moving. It gets jammed in there, and he like pulls it out, and he's like and they taped it up, and then they ran that stupid Philly special play on the 2-point conversion, knowing Stafford's hurt. He still dives and he catches it. I think at that point they're like, what the hell are we doing? Let's get him out of here. We're getting blown out of this game. So I think Stafford could end up playing, but we'll see. Buccaneers at the Texans, total of 40, another low total. Texans -3. They lose. They give the Panthers their first win on Sunday.
Finally.
Yeah. Get Bucks catching a little bit of juice here. Total's actually ticked up to actually sitting at 40. Not exactly a thrilling game here, but certainly will be a potentially difficult test for CJ Stroud against a tough defense if Vita Vea is able to play.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this game? It's kind of boring.
Yeah, both solid defenses make this a strong underplay. I had something on the Rams-Packers game. It is I would take the Packers too, but this game I just think defenses will make the unders in play, so I would lean under.
All right. Any props input here? Probably not.
No,
okay,
I think it's.
Commanders at
Get on to
Patriots.
another thrilling game here in week 9.
Commanders at Patriots. Patriots laying 3. This total still 39.5. Sam Howell versus Mac Jones, Emory.
Yeah, that's the matchup here. It's funny when you think about how the Chiefs are struggling offensively, then you look at what the Commanders are doing. I thought they had a chance to win that ball game, but you can kind of trust their offense to find some things against this defense. People just keep getting hurt for the Patriots, especially on offense. So I would lean taking the Commanders in the points here. I just think that it's gut check time for Ron Rivera, and everyone's playing for jobs now. I think the Commanders can go ahead on and get this one done. So I'm going to take them plus the points here while it's still value.
Yeah, it was nice to see Jahan Dotson flash. It's been a really tough season for Dotson. High expectations coming into the year. Had a pretty solid rookie season, was certainly explosive. His touchdown to catch ratio was really impressive. That regressed naturally, but hadn't really done much of anything to start the season. That was despite, Sam Howell really airing the ball out, this offense being a lot more aggressive. passing a lot more. So it's kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde situation for Sam Howell. 1 week he'll throw for a ton of yards and some touchdowns. Next week, not really do anything. Curious how he does against this pretty solid Patriots defense. One guy, again, I have my eye on is Demario Douglas. I expect him to be the biggest beneficiary of Kendrick Bourne, who unfortunately suffered an ACL tear, out for the season. He had been having a breakout season. But yeah, Douglas should emerge, in my opinion, as potentially Mac Jones's number one target. He's running his routes exclusively out of the slot. One of the more explosive options. They had a logjam sort of at wide receiver. Tyquan Thornton had been a healthy scratch, second-round pick from last year. So I think ultimately this is a good spot for Douglas to emerge for Mac Jones. He's a guy that I have my eye on for props both this week, and a fantastic matchup against the Commanders, who give up more explosive pass plays than any defense in the NFL.
Yeah. How many times are we going to see the ball turned over in that game? All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break here, but stick around. We got a brand new segment where we try and beat the line movement coming up next. You're watching Pick Six. We'll be right back.
An NWSL semifinal Sunday you'll never forget, with an icon leading the Shield winners against a legend who's hanging up her boots, and a budding star looking for back-to-back championships against a squad determined to give their captain a grand finale. All on CBS Sports Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pick Six podcast. We've got a new segment for you this week, although I think we did it last week as well, where we tried to give you a bet to lock in early before the lines move. We're calling it Anticipation Plays. This segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every move more. What was okay, so last week I gave the Texans -3, thought it would end up being 5.5, ended up being 3.5. Emory liked the Ravens -8.5, said it could get all the way up to 12.5, but it did go up to 9.5, so that was a good one to get in early. And then Brinson, 49ers -6, minus the. Well,
I mean,
it went up to 5.5. You were right. We didn't win, but you were right on the line movement.
Was that right on the line movement?
Yeah, because you said it would go up to. Well, you did it. Well, no.
No, I said it would go the other way, but that's because
No, got to 5.5.
Wait, what was it when I said?
It was 6, and then you said it would go to 8, but then the Brock Purdy thing brought it down to 3. And
the whole quarterback thing is what I think sort of threw that for a little. We did it on Monday before Brock Purdy was even in concussion protocol. Like, we didn't even know it. Remember, he got into concussion protocol late in the week.
Yeah,
like
after we did the show. Yeah, I would have gone with something different. Like, for instance, I should have gone. Well, it wouldn't have mattered, I guess, because it didn't move the opposite way. But the Panthers, who were catching 3 at home and won the game, thank you very much, as I told you they would. I'll take the Panthers this week. Panthers +3. I think this is a big time revenge spot for Frank Reich. Coming off his first win, you burst you let some air out of the balloon in terms of the pressure of getting that win. You now are going against a team that fired you for Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
And doesn't have Anthony Richardson. They're starting Gardner Minshew. This team, this is a Frank Reich special where I think people in Carolina, including my parents who are complaining constantly about Frank Reich for some reason, don't understand that, like, this team probably loves Frank Reich. And they're going to rally around Frank Reich. When you got a coach and you're fighting hard for that coach, you pick up your first win, everybody's enthusiastic, and you're rolling that momentum into a home game where you're an underdog against a team that fired your boss. Like, I think these guys are going to get gassed up for Frank Reich. Bryce Young wants to have a huge game for Frank Reich. Wants to point out, again, Anthony Richardson not playing on the other side, but you want to make everybody, you're playing another rookie quarterback's team, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure they know that you're the best rookie quarterback. I think we get a good game for Bryce Young. I think leading into this game, we'll see the line dip down a little closer to 1. I think with the Panthers at home.
I'll go next because mine goes hand in hand with yours. Looking at that total, it's at 44.5. It opened up as low as 43.5 and is already as high as 45.5. Even in some books, just like an hour after Sunday night's action. So if you look at Indianapolis, they've scored 57, 77, 65 total points in the last 3 games. And like you said, the Panthers are going to be here ready to play revenge game. I like this over 44.5 just because I think that it could tick up even a little bit higher. We've already seen it rise, 1-2 points.
Okay. What about you, Emory? What you got as your anticipatory line move here?
I'm gonna go Seahawks in Baltimore. The line is now 42.5. Once Twitter gets a hold of how well the passing game looks for Seattle and, what Lamar Jackson's doing in the passing game, they'll talk this line up to about 48.5. I do think it's ridiculously low. And I'll get to more detail when we talk about the game.
Yeah, and I'm going to take a shot on Atlanta here. I believe they're around -4.5. I could see this one potentially closing -5.5, -6, or even up to 6.5. I just think with Jaren Hall at quarterback for Minnesota, got Taylor Heineke coming in under center for Atlanta. I think that's going to be a pretty sizable boost for Atlanta's pass catchers. I've been impressed with the Falcons defense. They're playing at home as well. I just think this is a letdown spot for Minnesota. I could see the Falcons, potentially winning by a touchdown plus here. I think they could end up closing at 6-point favorites as well.
All right. This anticipation play segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Brinson.
Yes, that's right. My fault. I was sort of checked out thinking about how
into the segment. I get it.
Yeah, I was thinking about how bad my neck hurts and how much I don't want to watch Bears at Saints. Just kidding. I'm sure it'll be a great game. Saints -7, total of 41.5. I mean, sorry. Some of these matchups are just not compelling from an aesthetic standpoint, especially on a Monday. It's like I don't care about this game one freaking bit. I think if the Saints offense should be able to move the ball against this Bears defense, although, give Chicago some credit for playing better, but back-to-back road games, you're on the West Coast, you're going to New Orleans, you got to do it with the Superdome. It's a big game for the Saints. They know they have to win it. Derek Carr's there, and I don't the only way this moves tremendously is if we get Justin Fields in. I don't think he's supposed to play, right? This is another secret Bajent man matchup, I believe, Emory, right?
Yeah, I really have nothing on this game, to be honest.
Yeah,
all right.
Prop, anything?
Not a lot. Just want to point out it's been disappointing for Chris Olave. I will eat crow here. Obviously, coming into the year, thought he was headed for just an absolute monster year. I still feel like he can right the ship with a big second half. The volume hasn't been a problem recently. It's just been he's been very inefficient, not on the same page with Carr. Meanwhile, Rashid Shaheed has been extremely efficient on minimal volume. Had his third 100-yard performance of the season, averaging 21 yards per reception. Very impressive number. 3 receiving touchdowns as well. Hopefully this is a matchup against this Bears pass defense that we've seen every single quarterback, including Justin Herbert last night, completely shred. So if Olave can't produce here, time to sound the alarm.
Okay, moving on. Vikings at Falcons. Went ahead and mashed those two words up. Falcons laying 4.5 here. The look ahead line was the Falcons -1.5, was closer to a pick 'em, but obviously no Kirk Cousins, no Justin Jefferson. We've seen this line move. This total 37.5. Emory, you're looking at Jaren Hall in this game.
My skill set, my warehouse scouting. Oh my God. What can I tell you guys about Jaren Hall? He's my 5th-ranked quarterback in his draft class. And the good part about what he has done so far is that he's starting to do a little bit better than what I anticipated when he's been out there, because injury concern was huge coming out of BYU. So many concussions, knock on wood. You hope that's not going to flare up against the Falcons if he gets hit. But to me, he's someone that played just like Zach Wilson out there, but he just wasn't out. He actually was a starter before giving way to Zach Wilson because he got knocked out. Zach Wilson came in, played well, and kept the job. But above average field vision, he's someone that does bring the dual threat capability in there. Had a really solid Senior Bowl week, got better as the week went on. And in my scouting report, he has very good movement as a passer, pocket mobility, running ability, gets good consistent placement on his passes, and he's able to keep the ball out of harm's way. All of which are going to be key against a very aggressive Falcons defense. So, in my estimation, this is going to be fun to watch. I think the Vikings shouldn't go out and grab a veteran, see what you have in Jaren Hall, and then make adjustments at the end of the season. But this is why you drafted him. This is why you brought him in. Let the kid rock out.
Well, because you were seeing how well that they were doing even without, Justin Jefferson. Addison stepped up big. We even saw who's the running back that came from the Rams? Cam Akers starting to get a little bit of play there. Yeah, so it was just such a bummer. And obviously, Kirk Cousins is such a likable guy, especially after watching the quarterback series. It's just you hate to see it happen to anyone, specifically with him. But what are you looking at props wise?
A real shame, Katie. Kirk Cousins have been playing so well this season. Really think that guy is criminally underrated. So hate to see that injury for him. But yeah, as far as props are concerned in this game, the quarterback situation is dire in Atlanta when you get excited about Taylor Heineke coming under center. But frankly, I am. I think it's going to be a big boost for Drake London, who's really played well. Certainly should help Kyle Pitts out as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this Falcons offense being able a little bit to push the ball down the field. I think that's going to ultimately help the run game as well. See Bijan Robinson hopefully get back on track. Had a fairly good game this week, 11 carries, 62 yards. Wasn't really utilized out of the backfield as a receiver. Still would like to see him with some bigger workloads. So hopefully Heineke can produce some good results for the Falcons, help open up the offense, because the defense has been very good. However, they did lose Grady Jarrett to a season-ending injury. Interior lineman, very good player, all-pro caliber, made multiple Pro Bowls. So that's a miss for them. But yeah, they have the depth to hopefully overcome that. And the Falcons defense has been very good so far.
Bit of breaking news, conveniently timed since we're talking about the Seahawks at the Ravens. Seahawks are getting some help in terms of their defense. The Giants trading Leonard Williams to the Seahawks.
Wow.
With the Giants getting back a 2024 second rounder and a 2025 fifth rounder. You would think that second rounder, Seahawks already 5-2. Leonard Williams only helps that defense. USC guy, not like Pete Carroll was there when he was there, but certainly, that connection with Pete and his, is it your alma mater if you coach there? Coaching alma mater? Fight on, whatever.
Yeah.
His old employer, Leonard Williams, fantastic player. And Seattle coming to Baltimore. You would think, I guess I don't know how they would do this, right? It's Monday. I guess Leonard Williams is going to fly out to Seattle, do the physical, do all that. And then I would guess that he's playing like sort of a rotational snap basis this week, just because the deal is going down on a Monday. Seattle will have him in the building,
Cool.
I would think today, tomorrow. And you've got this matchup against Baltimore. It's a huge matchup. Bird matchup 1. That's always an important factor. And then 2, you got just 2 it's not that insane to suggest that the Ravens and the Seahawks could be a Super Bowl matchup either. I mean, the NFL is wide open enough this year that I think it'd be a surprising matchup. And plus this way, both teams can't lose when I suggest it, like the Lions and the Dolphins 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I would think you see Leonard Williams on a semi-rotational basis, and this only boosts, prop. You and RJ were big on the Seahawks before the season to win the division bets, make the playoff bets. All those look very, very good. I mean, the make the playoff bet. I believe right now the Seahawks are to make the playoffs are very. I believe it's let me see, I'll tell you exactly. I'm just looking it up. They're minus 350 to make the playoffs. They're plus 150 before the season. So you're feeling very, very good about that. I think it should actually be lower than that. It should be like minus 500, honestly, given how they played. And I'll probably take the points here with Seattle. Baltimore's really good at home. But, I think this is the sort of trade where you got to get Leonard Williams, who's like a Pro Bowl caliber interior defensive lineman, or just you can move them all around too. You can be an edge rusher, you can rush on the interior with Dexter Lawrence. They've done some different stuff, but I think Seattle will be creative with him. I think he will make an impact. And I think too, on a week where you're coming off this huge win against Cleveland at the last second, with where the 2 final plays on the offense and the defensive side of the ball were made by rookies. You have these great rookie classes the last 2 years. You feel all this momentum in Seattle, and then you got to make this trade for a big name player. You're giving up a future second round pick. That gets your team. Your team's these guys, we believe it. So I think 5.5 probably a bit steep for me in that market. I'll take Seattle with the points there.
Brinson, you know who else is huge on Seattle was Emory Hunt. He has him winning the NFC West.
That's
right.
right.
The ratio on this show is not going. But I was on a Baltimore Ravens radio show in the summer, and we were doing season predictions, and I brought up the Seattle being a very tough game for Baltimore, and everybody was like, "Why?" I was like, "Where are the Ravens? Questionable. It's in the secondary. Where is Seattle strong? at receiver in the passing game.
Yep.
This game is probably going to be back and forth because if you notice, and this is maybe people love this technique that when you're playing in phase where you just don't look back for the ball. You just grab onto the receiver's chest and hope for the best and try to play through the hands at the last second. You're going to get burned a ton of times. And Marlon Humphrey is great at doing that technique, but he leaves himself susceptible to illegal contact, pass interference. And in this ball game, whoever he's going to be matched up on, whether it's DK Metcalf or Jackson Smith and Jigba, either way, the Ravens don't have enough of Marlon Humphreys out there in the secondary. And I think this one could go where they're going to be able to score. And we know Lamar Jackson is able to lock in and they'll find big plays. That's why I say 42.5 is too low. I think people are thinking defense in this one. No, this is going to be an all offensive game because both teams are going to be able to go up and down the field.
And that's a good call. We've seen Seattle too, like more than willing, and Baltimore as well, like more than willing to sort of get engaged in these, like, it's those games where like both teams spin the tempo up a little bit. Like you can't run the ball. You're like, all right, we're going to pass the ball. And you just start seeing these like back and forth. And yeah, I could see that for sure. Prop, you got anything on this game?
I just love this Leonard Williams move. I think it's huge for Seattle. The rich get richer. I argued during the offseason, one of the most talented defenses on paper in the NFL. They certainly look better and better every week. So love this move to offset the loss of Nwosu, who I believe led the team in sacks. So yeah, definitely a welcome addition there. I think that's going to really help out the defense, add more depth. So love it for Seattle. I also like Seattle in this matchup. I think 5.5 is too many points as well. I think the over, as Emory mentioned, is a very good look here as well. So all in on Seattle. Can't believe they were even money to make the playoffs in the offseason. Silly. Yeah, my biggest position as far as futures are concerned. So definitely loving how that's trending.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the Seahawks just took down the Browns, and now Cleveland gets another shot at an NFC West opponent, this time at home, and you won't believe just how another low total. We'll tell you about it next.
We need the sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, welcome back to the Pick Six podcast. We are looking at next week's lines on a Monday. Cardinals at the Browns. Browns -7, total of 38.5. I mean, Prop, although you mentioned him, Trey McBride, 14 targets for a team that is probably going to have to throw the, see the total 38.5. This, like, this is basically saying it's like 23-16 is the, is the rough expected game score, which is not thrilling. But you would think if the Cardinals are trailing a ton here, they're going to have to throw it, and Trey McBride could be the beneficiary there with Zach Ertz, on IR.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Trey McBride's going to continue seeing his role expand in the offense now, running a full complement of snaps with Zach Ertz on IR. So I like Trey McBride quite a bit. I do want to point out Amari Cooper's having a very fine season for these Cleveland Browns, regardless of who's under center, whether it's been Deshaun Watson, whether it's been PJ Walker or DTR. But yeah, Amari Cooper continues to produce despite, under subpar quarterback play. So definitely want to give a shout out to Amari Cooper.
What's the latest on Deshaun Watson? Is he playing?
He didn't want to play, so he's probably not playing.
Yeah. But all right. Yeah.
Well, we talked about this with Brady, and Brady was like trying to clarify what he said on Fox Sports Radio last week. No. But Deshaun has a fully guaranteed contract. He doesn't have to play. If he doesn't have to go out there and risk long-term injury with his rotator cuff. And you saw as soon as people started questioning it immediately, there's stuff out there. It's like Deshaun's been fighting through this injury to get better. It's like, we see that your agent is leaking this out. I would be surprised if he plays. I'm not sure that Cardinals defense. Well, actually, I take that back. I think this would be the week where Deshaun Watson does play, because he's got a bad defense and he thinks he can go out there and he can play well. I think the player empowerment's great. So I'm not dogging it. It's a weird two-sided coin. It's just like Deshaun feels like he's very, I don't know. Deshaun doesn't.
You think he plays again this season?
Yeah, I think he'll play again this season. I just think if his contract were incentive based, he would be out there trying to play. And
Let me jump. I gotta say this because this has been bugging me the whole couple weeks. The man said he can't throw, right? And then
he did look terrible out there.
He tried to throw a screen pass and the ball just didn't have. Then he tried to throw a gasser down on a deep flag route. He one-hopped it. Then the interception he threw when he rolled out. So he's trying to roll toward his left, building up some good momentum to fire a dart, and just couldn't get it to the receiver.
Yeah. It does look like he is not capable of throwing the football the way that he normally should.
So everybody say he needs to get out there and play. He needs to get out there and play. And he was like, I'm not ready. But you're medically cleared, blah, 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 even though they know the difference between medically cleared and able to play. So he goes out there, has a bad quarter versus the coach. Like, I told y'all. Like, now y'all happy? So until he feels healthy, I wouldn't go out there if I were him. Because, again, he's a high-velocity thrower. He's not a 1, 2, 3, get the ball out, dink and dunk guy like some quarterbacks. He lives at the intermediate level and is a deep ball guy. And if you can't get that gas on those passes, then you're just putting your team in harm's way like he did against the Colts. And luckily, it worked out for him in the end because both, and that ties to this ball game, because both PJ Walker and Josh Dobbs keep both teams in the game. So they were able to get some big plays because the Gardner Minshew keeps out the team in the game as well. But if I'm Deshaun Watson, until you feel comfortable that you can get good RPMs on those passes, don't go out there because all teams are going to do is blitz you. You're going to take a lot of hits, i.e. against the Colts. We had a concussion. And so he's doing the right thing. But because it's Deshaun Watson, everyone is taking it the wrong way and making it about him and the contract and him not like we did the same thing. We saw the same thing with Burrow, but we knew Burrow was not 100% with his calf. And when he got 100%, guess what came back into play? The deep ball, the high velocity throws against tight coverage. He played, but he was getting beat up and they were losing. So why would you do that? And everyone, even Jamar Chase was like, nah, man, wait till week 5. So I just think
I think it's a tough, like, I agree with you. Like, he shouldn't be out there playing if it's going to cost his team. But I also think that, like, I mean, I think here's let me put this as like a larger like framed like Cleveland thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think it's like the team is letting it be known that he's medically cleared and that he is making his personal decision not to play. And that when he did play, he went out there against the Colts. He's like went out there and threw 5 passes. Was like, I'm feeling it, and pulled himself out. And so, like, I think that the problem is for Cleveland with where they are in terms of the, they're what now 5-3, 4-3. They're a 3-way tie with the Steelers and the Bengals behind the Ravens in that division. When you look at the AFC, they're the 7 seed right now. You've got to be Kevin Stefanski, Ken Carman, and Anthony Lima, buddy from the podcast. They got into this like huge thing about Kevin Stefanski on their radio show this morning in 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. I think there is a lot of pressure building in Cleveland right now with Kevin Stefanski, and I think that Kevin Stefanski believes he'd be winning more games. They'd have a better record if they had Baker Mayfield versus Deshaun Watson, just because Baker's healthier, he can run the system. Deshaun hadn't been able to get. He's had one good game since he got there, and I just think like it's even if it's. I think there's a lot of people in a lot of different places on this whole thing, and it wouldn't be shocking if like this Cleveland team kind of cratered because of disparate viewpoints with the coaching staff, the front office, and then of course with the actual roster itself.
All right, next up we have Colts and Panthers, but I think we should just skip this one because we already talked about it quite a bit in our FanDuel anticipation plays. So Brinson, who else we got?
Next up, I got the Panthers in that one, by the way. Cowboys and the Eagles. Yeah. I know, just letting people know. Cowboys and the Eagles, a fascinating game here because the Cowboys just stomped the Rams. Was it 43-20 was the final score?
Yeah.
43.
4 touchdowns for Dak, right?
Yep. Dak looked great. CeeDee Lamb had a career high in terms of catches and yardage. And then you have the Eagles. It's like A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb might be the 2 best wide receivers in football right now, along with Tyreek Hill, I guess, and Justin Jefferson when he comes back. Jamar Chase, man, wide receiver. Unbelievable group of wide receivers, LSU wide receivers too, by the way, or SEC wide receivers if you want. But the Eagles only laying 3 here is a little surprising. I feel like the Eagles have looked, the Eagles I guess it's the Cowboys are America's team, et cetera, et cetera. I tend to think that the Eagles are the play here at -3,
Yeah.
but it is a little sussy baka, just only being 3 points.
I tend to agree. I just think, divisional game versus the Cowboys. Cowboys tend to play the Eagles tough. Obviously, Commanders have played the Eagles tough as well. So should really be an interesting matchup. We've seen the Cowboys either rout their opponents or get routed themselves. Haven't seen them in a lot of neutral game scripts, still trying to struggle to figure out what this Cowboys team even looks like. Because, they're either playing with a big lead or playing from behind. So should be interesting. A.J. Brown, just unbelievable. 6th consecutive game with over 125 receiving yards. If that's not impressive enough, had a 100% catch rate this week as well. 8 targets, 8 receptions, just some grown man stuff from A.J. Brown. Also saw Devontae Smith have a bit of a breakout game. It's been a struggle for him, so it was good to see him, finish with close to 100 receiving yards himself. The Eagles definitely made a concentrated effort to get Devontae Smith involved. So that passing offense is really clicking. Jalen Hurts isn't as mobile as he has been. I think he's playing a little bit hurt, but I think it kind of benefits the Eagles, interestingly enough. I think as a result, we're seeing him kind of focus more on being a pocket passer, and the results are obviously impressive. So yeah, I think this is a great matchup against the Cowboys, but I also think the Eagles here as 3-point favorites. I think I like them in the spot.
Yeah, I look at the Cowboys receivers against this Eagles secondary, because if you watch the Washington game, and there's some opportunities deep down the field against this secondary. And this is an old Mike Leach thing. When you think about playing these teams that can blitz, it's like, hey, if you're willing to take a few hits in the pocket, there's touchdowns on the other side of that pressure. And when you think about who we saw a lot of 24 for the Eagles, saw a lot of back of his jersey. The receivers was getting behind him, and so if you can block a little bit, Dallas has the personnel to really attack. I think the over is definitely in play in this one. I see this one like I see the big Seahawks and Ravens game. This one will go back and forth for big plays in the passing game.
Yeah, I agree. I would lean Eagles here too. I just don't know if you can trust Dak Prescott in big games, and
Cowboys been terrible on the road too.
Terrible on the road. Yeah, like exactly. Great at home, and he's coming off a big game. Now he's got a huge divisional rival. Like, I don't know.
Katie, this might be the first time I've ever heard you back the Eagles, so I feel like it's just really nice to hear.
That's not true. I've taken Hurts for an anytime touchdown multiple times. Yeah, maybe I haven't backed them on the spread. Yeah, that could be true. That could be true. But I would definitely lay the 3 here, because I trust they've been more consistent than the Cowboys have. The Cowboys are either getting blown out or blowing somebody else out. So it's kind of like the Eagles, they've won some tight games, but they've just been more consistent. I do think that offense is finally starting to heat up. The loss of Shane Steichen was really hard for them for the first few weeks, but starting to all come together here. Next up, less exciting game, the Giants at the Raiders.
Ugh.
Raiders laying 3 here. This total 39. The Raiders, I believe, are playing tonight, right? So that could change this line. We'll see if Jimmy Garoppolo can stay healthy for this game, what that looks like. Giants, coming off a really ugly, horrible loss to the Jets on Sunday. I don't.
It's hard to back. It's hard to back the Giants right now. You lose to the Jets. Nick Costas was texting the thread like, I'm sick to my stomach. It's like, over what? He's like, the Giants. It's like one, like, dude, your team sucks. So maybe don't get too worried about it. You're gonna get a better draft pick, but it's also like they signed Daniel Jones this huge deal. So you get this great draft pick, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, wish we hadn't have done that. Trade Leonard Williams. So this debilitating loss to the Jets in the shared home stadium in overtime. And then you trade like one of your better defenders. And then you got to get on the road and go out to Vegas. Like, I know what I would be doing at, like, what are they now? Are they 2 and I believe they're 2-5? Is that right? 2-6, 2-5, 2-6. If I'm on the Giants and we're 2-6 and we've just lost in overtime to the Jets and we're trading away players, and they might trade some more before the franchise for the trade deadline on Tuesday at 4 p.m. We'll have a live show, so check that out tomorrow. I'm probably going to have a big Friday night out in Vegas. and maybe a big Saturday night.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like they might look a little lethargic coming out of the gates. If I'm Brian Dable, I'm probably hitting the craps table pretty hard, or at least playing some blackjack and maybe not taking it too deep on Saturday or anything like that. But I'm just saying, I think at this team, if they trade away, like it's just they're waving the white flag. Like when they're eating most of Leonard Williams' salary to over $10 million, according to a report from Mike Garafolo of NFL Media, in order to get better draft compensation. So they are essentially waving the white flag. And when you wave the white flag and you get on the road and go to Las Vegas, dangerous spots. We've seen some teams be lethargic in Las Vegas so far this season. All right. Anything else on this game?
No.
Daniel Jones will start though, but it's funny how it.
I like the Raiders even more.
Yeah.
So if he's ready to start, why wasn't he ready to play yesterday? You know,
why would we ask the same questions about Daniel Jones that we asked about Deshaun Watson?
Because the offense was moving better with Tyrod Taylor. I feel like they were like, let's just keep this going. I don't know.
Is Tyrod Taylor cursed, by the way?
Maybe.
I mean, has anybody ever suffered he's gets to start with the Browns when they draft Baker and he gets a concussion in the first quarter. And he's gets to start for the Chargers when they draft Justin Herbert and they stab him in the ribs. And he's getting some starts. He's getting some starts because Daniel Jones is banged up and looks like the better quarterback. And then he suffers another rib injury. I feel bad for the guy. I love Tyrod Taylor.
I do too.
All right. Finally, Bills at the Bengals. Bengals -3, total 48.5 Sunday Night Football. Fantastic game. Bills getting juice at +3 and the over getting some juice at -115, 48.5. Of course, the last two times that these two teams met was the playoff game in which the Bills just got manhandled. And then the time before that was the DeMar Hamlin game. So I'm assuming NBC will have some related content for us on Sunday night for that. Man, it's hard not to back the Bengals in this spot. They look great lately. Yeah. I also think this could be a little bit more of an under game than you sort of believe. 48.5. It's not. You think it'd be more like a 50-point total just because it's the Sunday night game. These two big offenses, but Lou Anarumo's defense, they can slow some people down, and the Bengals aren't afraid to sort of churn and burn. But any thoughts on this game, Emory?
No, I just think it's going to look a lot like the AFC divisional playoff, to be honest. I think the Bengals, although to Bill's credit, they are able to run the ball a little bit better this year. That's been a pleasant surprise. I like where the number is for the total. So I may have more of a lean toward the over than opposed to the point spread, because I think we're in for another back and forth affair. Depending on what the weather is like out there in Cincinnati this weekend, it should be fine. But I think we're going to get this back and forth because both teams now are able to play the same game.
I just felt the Bengals looked excellent coming off the bye week. Saw Joe Burrow look as healthy as he's looked all year. Saw a very balanced Bengals offense as well. Joe Mixon had success running the football. And then I think a big boost for the offense is T. Higgins. T. Higgins back, had that rib injury, had only eclipsed 30 yards one time this season prior to yesterday. Prior to the bye week, he was splitting snaps with Trent Irwin, played a full complement of snaps yesterday, had a big game, had over 70 receiving yards. So they are firing on all cylinders. I think the Bills are really catching the Bengals at the wrong time here personally. Yes. So, yeah, I just think this is a good spot for a Bengals team that's peaking, has all the momentum. I look to back the Bengals here. Likely will be one of the few sides I'm on this week. We'll be back in Cincinnati -3.
As do I. I feel like the Bills have been very volatile, kind of up and down. And the Bengals obviously started off slow with an injured Joe Burrow, but they've been going like this ever since. And I mean, Joe Burrow has got to be all the way back. 3 touchdowns, 283 pass yards, 43 rush yards. I mean, he was just juking, moving, and doing all of the things. So I will take the Bengals -3. And it's interesting because this line opened up closer to a pick on Bengals -1.5. And now it's already been bet to Bengals -3. So if you like it, you might want to bet it now. That could be one of those ones that moves as well. And this is going to do it for our early show. Make sure you join us all week for more NFL coverage. Tomorrow, Brinson, Breach, and Wilson are joined by Pete Prisco to break down his weekly power rankings on CBSSports.com. One last reminder, show us some love, the like, comment, hit subscribe on the YouTube page. If you're listening to audio, do the same, follow, download, leave a 5-star review, tell your friends to listen and watch the pod, and we'll see you later.